کوئی راز جو چپکے سے بتایا اس کو، تھا کوئی راز جو چپکے سے بتایا اس کو، کند خنجر سے۔ ایک درود بھیجیے محمد وآل محمد۔ سلام کے چند اشعار ہیں۔ راہ بر مل جائے منزل کا پتہ مل جائے گا، راہ بر مل جائے منزل کا پتہ مل جائے، اور مل گئے جس کو ولی اس کو خدا مل جائے، مل گئے جس کو ولی اس کو خدا مل جائے گا، راہ بر مل جائے منزل کا پتہ مل جائے گا، اور ڈھونڈنے والے کبھی نعت علی پڑھ کر تو، ڈھونڈنے والے کبھی نعت علی پڑھ کر تو، ارے کیسا ہی بھولا ہوا ہو راستہ مل جائے گا، راہ بر مل جائے منزل کا پتہ مل جائے گا، اور ہے زمانے میں شجاعت کا یہی پہلا اصول، ہے زمانے میں شجاعت کا یہی پہلا اصول، ارے یا علی کہہ کر بڑھو تو حوصلہ مل جائے گا، راہ بر مل جائے منزل کا پتہ، اے پیمبر یا علی کہہ کر ندا تو دیجیے، اے پیمبر یا علی کہہ کر ندا تو دیجیے، ارے آپ کو اللہ سے خیبر کشا مل جا، آپ کو اللہ سے خیبر کشا مل جائے گا، راہ بر مل جائے منزل کا پتہ مل جائے گا، ارے ہم کو کیا فکر قیامت، ہم کو کیا خوف ہم کو کیا فکر قیامت، ہم کو کیا خوف ارے 14 معصوموں میں کوئی رہنما مل جائے گا، راہ بر مل جائے نامعلوم تھا، بولی بانو لاشے اکبر پہ نامعلوم تھا، ارے خاک میں ارمان تیرے بیاہ کا مل جائے گا، راہ بر مل جائے، دل کا پتہ مل جائے گا۔ ایک درود بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد۔ فاتحہ۔ ایک مرتبہ درود اور بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد۔ سر پیٹو آج موسیٰ جعفر ہوئے شہید، ارے ابن علی و ابن پیامبر ہوئے شہید، غربت میں آہ کاظم بے پر ہوئے شہید، ارے لو مومنوں کے ساتھ میں رہبر ہوئے شہید، لو مومنوں کے ساتھ میں رہبر ہوئے شہید، پلوایا زہر بادشاہ خاص و عام، ارے ہارون نارشید نے مارا امام، ہارون نارشید نے مارا امام، ارے کس طرح سے بیان کروں ظلم اہل کی، افسوس پیٹ بھر کبھی کھانا ملا، فاقے پہ فاقہ کرتا تھا احمد کا جان، زندہ میں 14 سال تھے محبوس شاہ، زندہ میں 14 سال تھے محبوس شاہ، طاقت نہ تھی ذرا بھی قعود و قیام کی، ارے حالت یہ تھی امام علیہ السلام کی، حالت یہ تھی امام علیہ السلام، دی امت حضرت نے بددعا، ہر وقت شے کے لب پہ رہا شکر کبریا، سندی کے تازیانوں کی ہر روز تھی جفا، بہتا تھا خون جسم سے روحی لا الفدا، بہتا تھا خون جسم سے روحی لا الفدا، ایذائے قید ایسی کسی نے سہی نہیں، ارے بیداد اس طرح کی کسی پر ہوئی نہیں، بیداد اس طرح کی کسی پر ہوئی نہیں، القصہ زہر آپ کو انگور میں دیا، جس سے جناب موسیٰ کاظم نے کی، بعضوں نے لکھا ہے یہ شہادت کا ماجرا، پگھلا کے شیش آپ کو جبرن پلا دیا، پگھلا کے شیش آپ کو جبرن پلا دیا، کیسا کہوں کہ حال ہوا کیا امام کا، یوں ہی لاش کا تھی لاش بے کفن شہ عالی مقام کی، ارے توقیر کی یہ آل رسول انام، توقیر کی یہ آل رسول انام کی، ارے نزدیک بھائی تھا نہ پسر تھا نہ بھانجا، تنہائی میں یہ ظلم و ستم و مصیبت، 2 روز تک تو جسر پہ لاشا پڑا، میت پہ رونے والا بھی ہے کوئی، میت پہ رونے والا بھی ہے کوئی، صدمے اٹھا کے ہائے جہاں سے گزر گئے، ارے غربت میں کاظم ذیشان مر گئے، غربت میں کاظم ذیشان مر گئے، سر پیٹو آج موسیٰ جعفر ہوئے شہید۔
رحم اللہ من قرأ سورة الفاتحہ۔ Please recite Surah Fatiha for the sponsors, marhumin of tonight. It is Mr. and Mrs. Hadhrat. Please recite Surah Fatiha for their marhumin. Also including in Surah Fatiha, marhuma Ikhlas Fatma Zaidi bint Sayyid Aftab Zaidi, who passed away last month. Please recite Surah Fatiha for her as well. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين، وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الفاسفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. condolences on this sad occasion, which marks the Shahadat of our seventh Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim, alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma sallam. And on this 25th day of the month of Rajab, in the year 183, is when the Shahadat of our seventh Imam takes place in the prison of man by the name Sindi ibn Shahik, by the orders of Harun al-Rashid Mal'un. And indeed, these ayam are not easy as we continue to see the suffering of the shrines of Masumin. I'm sure you heard the other day, one of the sons of our seventh Imam, Muhammad ibn Musa al-Kadhim, his shrine was attacked in Iran, in Khuzestan area where his shrine is, by the elements unknown who, of course, cannot be Shia and cannot be Mu'mineen and Muslimin. And this is something which we have seen from the other side as well, where the Jannatul Baqi stands in front of you with all the demolitions that were done there, and the similar elements who are trying to remove these places of the shrines of Masumin. But on this sad occasion, I recited this ayat number 134 from Surah Al-Imran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayat says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, counting the attributes of those who are God-weary, those who are muttaqeen, those who are fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah counts their different attributes. The first attribute that Allah counts of these muttaqeen in this ayat number 134 is financial. The second attribute that Allah counts toward these individuals is their characteristic, their behavior. So it tells you that both aspects of your life need to excel. You cannot just excel in one area of your life and remain behind in the other area of life. You cannot become too much as far as the ibadat is concerned, but as far as the sakhawat and generosity is concerned, you're lacking behind. Or vice versa, you cannot just be too generous all the time, and when it comes to bowing your head and prostrating in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and showing obedience to Him, that you are slacking behind and you're staying behind. No, mu'min is someone, at least muttaqi is someone where Allah counts all of these attributes stay together and they progress together. The first attribute that He counts in this ayat, He says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّةِ. Muttaqeen and mu'mineen are those who spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether they are facing adversity or whether they're going through ease. So in the life of insan, human beings, sometimes you can look at your life, if you've lived for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and you can say, when I was going through that part of my life, I was facing a lot of turmoil and difficulty, financially and whatnot. And so, even though I was financially struggling, one of the attributes of mu'mineen that Allah counts is that الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ. They still spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether they're facing adversity or whether they're going through ease and financial ease in their lives. This is the first attribute of muttaqeen that Allah counts in this particular ayah. After this first attribute, Allah then speaks about the characteristics and the behavior, which of course aligns with that famous attribute of our seventh Imam, the word Kadhim. He says what? وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. Muttaqeen are those who do what is called Kazm Ghayz. Kazm in Arabic was used for Kazmul Qirba. Qirba is the water skin, mashk, jisko hum kehte hain, that was used back in the time when people would travel. They would fill these mashk or these water skins with water. And what they would do, they would tie the top of it, the mouth of it, so hard so that not a single drop of water comes out of it. That's called Kazmul Qirba. When you tightly close the mouth of this water skin, so that not a single drop of water leaves it. You want water, in the scarcity of water in the Arabian Peninsula. That's called closing it tightly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the same attribute when it says وَكَظْمُ الْغَيْظِ, that mu'mineen and muttaqeen are those who are able to tightly put a lid on their ghadab and their anger. Kazmul ghaiz means this. Meaning what? You close it so tightly that not a single, element of this anger comes out of you. You're able to suppress it. And this was the trait that was found in all of the Imams. Our seventh Imam is given this title, most famously, Musa al-Kadhim. But you found this to be in the other Imams as well. I believe it is related to our second Imam, Imam Hassan Mushtaba, alayhi salatu wassalam, that a servant in his house dropped Imam's child that eventually took the life of the child. The child died. Now this is a means where Imam should get angry. When Imam showed the athar of anger, because he, at the end of the day, is a father, he's a human being, and therefore he has those traits in him. And it's not like ghadab is all bad. Sometimes you have to show ghadab and anger. So when Imam began to show the signs, this Kadhim of Imam recited this ayat, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. Imam suppressed his anger. And then this man said, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. Imam said, I forgive you. And then he said, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And Allah loves those who are the righteous. Imam said, I set you free. What do we get from this ayat? There are three stages that are being mentioned. Is it enough for me to just do Kazmul Ghayz? Cover my anger and not let my anger out? Just like Kazmul Qirba that was mentioned? That is the first step. Rasulullah did not say, I came to give akhlaq. He said, إِنَّمَا بُئِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. Not just the akhlaq, but the peak of akhlaq. Peak of akhlaq is not just suppressing your anger. Anyone can do that. Peak of akhlaq is that you forgive after you have suppressed your anger. Why? Because if you don't forgive, if that anger stays there, there's a possibility that it'll reboil and come out again. Kind of like the water that is on the stove. If you don't turn off the stove completely and let it running a little bit, eventually it'll boil over. He said, if you, after having done Kazmul Ghayz, and you do not suppress your anger and you do not forgive, then there's waiting to come out at any moment. And then, once you're able to forgive that individual as well, sometimes we say, well, yeah, I forgive you, but that's not really forgiving. Yeah, sure, I forgive you. No, forgiveness from the bottom of your heart. What does that show? The next step in itmame or in makarim al-akhlaq, when Allah says, Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. You should do ihsan to this individual as well. After you have suppressed your anger, and after you have forgiven the individual, what should you do? You should do ihsan to them. When you do ihsan to that individual, then you have really overcome this ghayz of yours. Hence the story that I recited for you. Imam not only controlled his anger, forgave the servant, did ihsan onto him, set him free as well. This is what this ayat is truly about. Now, our seventh Imam, one of his titles is Kadhim. There are many titles that are given to our seventh Imam. Babul Hawaij is also amongst the titles of Imam. His kunyat is Abul Hasan. He's Abul Hasan Awwal, the first Abul Hasan. The second Abul Hasan, of course, is our eighth Imam. And the third Abul Hasan is our 10th Imam, father of Imam Hasan Askari. Amir al-Mu'mineen is also Abul Hasan, but he's Abul Hasan al-Mutlaq. Imam Kadhim is Abul Hasan Awwal, Imam Rada is Abul Hasan al-Thani, and Imam al-Naqi is Abul Hasan al-Thalith. Imam's title is Abul Hasan. Imam's titles are Kazmul Ghaiz or Kadhim, or, he is the one who has given Babul Hawaij. He's given other titles as well. We know where Imam was born, in the city of Medina, in the year 128, in the month of Safar, on the 7th day of Safar. Imam's Shahadat is in the place called Baghdad, in the Mahalla, which the graveyard belonged to the Banu Hashim or the Quraysh. Imam was born in the middle of Mecca and Medina, a place called Abwa, where his wiladat takes place. We know his father is the 6th Imam. His mother is Hamida Khatun, or Barbariya, or the name is attached with her. And all of these side knowledge that we have of Imam. This information that we have of Imam, is this ma'rifat of Imam? Do we consider this to be the ma'rifat of our 7th Imam? I just mentioned to you his name, his titles, his kunyat, his mother's name, his father's name. I can even name you few of his siblings, or I can name you few of his kids. 8th Imam, Bibi Masuma Qawm, Muhammad, whose shrine was attacked. By the way, Imam had 37 kids. So, Imam was Kathirul Alad. And that too also shows the fact that the reign of his Imamat began in the year 148, the Shahadat of 6th Imam, and lasts until the year 183, until his Shahadat. I'll let you do the math. 35 years, right, of Imam's Imamat. And therefore, Imam had great deal of time to propagate this deen. And at the same time, we found that while his reign of Imamat is 35 years, Imam has spent the most time in the prison as well. 14 years. You hear that all the time. But all this information that I just shared with you, which I'm sure I shared with you last year as well, or the year before, and the past years, is that the ma'rifat of Imam? What is the kun and the ma'rifat and the essence of Aimma Athar? Let me give you an example. You want some sort of procedure done. A few names of physicians are given to you. You say, yeah, I know where that physician lives. Lives in Edison. Right? I know his brother's name. I know his children's name. I know he's been practicing for... This information, is that going to be helpful in your procedure that you want to go ahead and accomplish? You want to know where he practiced. You want to know if he has a degree. You want to know if he is entitled and has the ability to perform that amal. How many times has he done this amal and this action or this operation? All that information will still not be beneficial toward that cure that you're seeking, but nonetheless, you need to know all that. Now you have gained a little bit of ma'rifat regarding that physician. Once you have that sort of ma'rifat of that physician, now you're able to move forward and have comfort. Then I can trust and I can go ahead and have this person operate me, for example. Now I'll come to the ma'rifat of Imam. If you can have the door in the back closed, I think there are children talking. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Just close the door. So that knowledge is something that gives you some peace of mind that now I can go ahead and see this doctor and get myself operated, for example, get my amal done, for example, in front of him. Similarly, when it comes to the ma'rifat of Imam, just knowing his whereabouts, this information is known sometimes better than the enemies as well. Imam's enemies knew about Imam better than you and I did. I've said this before. In Karbala, those who are standing in front of Imam Hussein, Shimr, for example, Umar Saad, for example, they have better knowledge of Imam Hussein. They don't have the ma'rifat of Imam. But they know Imam. They grew up together. They know better about all of the familial relations that Imam has. But that did not help them one bit, did it? What would have benefited them had they possessed any ma'rifat of Imam alayhi salatu wasalam? Similarly, today, after so many centuries, if you and I only know about the ID information of Imam, that doesn't do us much good, unfortunately. Because many of the enemies of Imams know about this as well. What does good to us if we know and have a proper ma'rifat of Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, ma'rifat is divided into three parts. One is called ma'rifat jalali, or the basic knowledge. Second is known as ma'rifat jamali, the aesthetic or the deeper knowledge. And third is known as ma'rifat kamali, which is the, you know the word kamal, perfection. You and I can only get to that ma'rifat jamali. Kamal is not what we're looking for anywhere, nor are we capable of getting there. Why? Rasul Akram Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned that about Amirul Mu'minin. Ya Ali, la yarifuka illallah wa ana. Oh Ali, nobody knows you except me and Allah. You will say, this hadith, I know Ali. No, Rasulullah is not saying you don't have the basic knowledge of Ali. Rasulullah is not saying that you don't have the aesthetic knowledge of Imam Ali or the deeper knowledge of Ali. Rasulullah is saying you don't have the perfect knowledge of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Anyone who got close to the ma'rifat of Aimma, right away they earned the title of As-Salmanu Minna Al-Bayt. Salman is from us, the Ahlul Bayt, because he got so close to the ma'rifat of Aimma Athar. Of course, you and I don't have that. Let me give you, just explain these three words that I threw in front of you, just so that we understand what it means. When you're walking and you see a mountain from far away, the fact that you know it's a mountain, not a tree, not a human, not an animal, that's ma'rifat jalali, the basic knowledge. You're able to discern between a mountain and another object. That ma'rifat is very basic. The moment you get close to it, right, now you're able to see the beauty of this mountain. You're able to see the height of this mountain. You're able to appreciate this mountain. That is the ma'rifat jamali. You're able to see the jamal and the beauty of this mountain. Number three, when you're able to climb it, see the nashib and faraz, ebbs and flows of it, have proper understanding of it, where to stay, where to stop, where to climb, and all that stuff, that is ma'rifat kamali. Of course, as I said, you and I will not be able to get to the ma'rifat kamal of Imam, but we still need to get to the ma'rifat of jamal of Imam. When we have that ma'rifat jamal of Imam, that brings this obligation onto us. That entails that we are obedient to Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. That tells us that Imam is an individual who's appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, appointed by the Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This Imam is wajibul ita'at. His obedience is obligatory upon us. We know that he is masoon anil khata, meaning he is infallible. And therefore, whatever he commands us to do is in line with the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the ma'rifat, brothers and sisters. This sort of gatherings, these gatherings when you get into, should be giving to you. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad param. Of course, Imam lived in the time of a very cruel ruler of Abbasids, Harun al-Rashid, as I said. Once, Harun went for the ziyarat of Kaaba. And of course, after having done Hajj, he went to Madinatul Munawwara. And when he was doing the ziyarat of Rasulullah, he stood in front of the zari of Rasulullah and he said, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka yabn al-am. Peace be upon you, O Rasulullah, Messenger of Allah, and peace upon our cousin, son of our uncle, right? Our cousin. Why? Of course, you know the relationship. Banu Abbas are from Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. And Rasulullah is son of Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib. Ali is the son of Abu Talib ibn Abdul Muttalib. So the relationship is there. So basically, he's cousins with Rasulullah. He says, Yabna Am. And he did it with iftikhar and fakhr and pride. Seventh Imam was standing there. Seventh Imam said, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya abata. Salam and peace be upon you, O Rasulullah. Salam and peace be upon, O our father. Hearing that, of course, what happened to فَتَغَيَّرَ وَجْهُ الرَّشِيدِ وَتَبَيَّنَ الْغَيْزُ فِيهِ. Riwayah says that his face complexion changed upon hearing that. That how can someone consider themselves to be superior to us and show the nearness to Rasulullah than us? That's the reason one of the shu'ara by the name Hibatullah, he said this regarding the Khulafai Abbasi. He said, قام الخليفة من بني العباس, the rulers of Banu Abbas, they rose بخلاف أمر الله في الناس, against, contrary to God's commands among the people. ضاها بحتك حرم آل Muhammad, they, made afat or brought afat upon Ali Muhammad, the sanctity of Ali Muhammad. Safahan fa'ala umayyat al-arjas wallah. It says worse than what the filthy Umayyads had done. So he's speaking about Banu Abbas. Ma fa'alat umayyatu fihim me'ishara ma fa'alu Banu al-Abbas. He said whatever the Umayyads did, they did not do enough. A tenth of what the Abbasids had done regarding Ahlul Bayt. A tenth of what Abbasids have done. That means while Banu Umayyah had their problems, Banu Abbas were worse than that. 10 times worse than when it came to dealing with Ahlul Bayt. And this share and many such accounts of history are, speaking to us in this regard. Imam al-Kadhim, of course, while going through different prisons, 14 years he spent in the prisons, Imam did not let that affect the work that he was doing. And the work that Imam was doing was to train when Imam is away. He's going to have his deputies to train individuals so they're able to go around and propagate the faith and the religion of Imam. In fact, training his own children as well. We know one of them is the Imam, next Imam, but even his daughter. We find out about her, how she was able to go ahead and, teach and able to answer the questions of the mu'mineen. But one of these students, which is also from the time of our sixth Imam, Hisham ibn Hakam. Hisham is someone who came to the right path with the works of seventh Imam or sixth Imam. He came to the right path. He wasn't on the path of Ahlul Bayt before. But once he made it over here, sometimes you hear many of those people who convert, they are sometimes far superior than those who have been Muslims all their lives. Because they have to break a lot of norms. They have to struggle toward it. When you struggle to prove something, that means you have really understood it properly. That famous story that I've narrated and recited many times, associated to the Rahbar of Inqilab, Imam Khomeini, that when he was arrested and he was being taken from Qum to where? Tehran. The same Shah whose son they're trying to install, that Shah, Raza Pahlavi, he had ordered the arrest of Imam Khomeini. And he was arrested from Madrasa Faiziya in Qum. And those who have gone for the ziyarat, now they have a new highway. They used to have Jadde Kadhim, the old highway. So the old highway was even, more remote, going through some towns and places were very remote. Now Jadde Jadid, the new highway, of course, is a very beautiful highway. But that old highway was, of course, was there in the time of Shah. What happened? Imam Khomeini said that I asked these people, because they arrested me in the late hours of night, and they were taking me to Tehran, Jadda Qadim. It used to take 2-3 hours to get there. He said, I asked them, can I pray? Offer my Salatul Fajr, it's time for Fajr. And you're Muslimin, you're Mu'min, you're Muslim. It's time for Salatul Fajr. And the time of Salatul Fajr is only 70-80 minutes, not more than that. So by the time we arrive in Tehran, namaz will be qaza. Can I just go ahead and offer? He said, no, we have strict orders. We cannot let you off the car. You must come with us. He said, I'm coming with you. And Imam Khomeini at that time is already, in his 70s. He said, I'm a 70-year-old man. You think I'm going to run away in the middle of this nowhere, this remote area? I'll offer 2 rakat namaz fajr and be done with it, because by the time we arrive, it'll be qaza. He said, after so much convincing and begging, they allowed me to go ahead and offer 2 rakat namaz. Then he says it about himself. In his autobiography, he says, I don't know about all of my prayers, were they accepted or not. But I know that 2 rakat prayer that I offered on the night that I was arrested was definitely accepted. Why? I had to struggle. I had to convince them that let me pray. And then they allowed me to pray, and therefore I think I earned that. Similarly, a lot of time people who convert, when they come onto the fold of Islam and they are practicing and they're struggling at the same time, their level of faith is sometimes more than ours. Why? Because we take this faith for granted. Imam ﷺ trained such individuals. Hisham was amongst them, and he was known for his munazarat. I wanted to share one munazara of Hisham that he had by a person by the name Zarar. And of course, these were the individuals who were workers of Harun. In fact, Harun had planted, someone had complained about Hisham, that Hisham is Shia. And so Harun said, go ahead and invite him for this munazara and we'll see where he gets to. So right away, Zarar asks him the question about prove imamat. And so this conversation that I'm sharing with you, inshallah, you can also preserve this. Not that we need to prove to anyone the, belief in imamat. Not that we owe it to anyone, but min babe what? From the section that we want to bring people to the right path, right? From min az-zulumati ila nur. Maybe you'll spark a light in someone's heart by this kalam of Hisham regarding proving the imam. Because many people today as well, while all of the proofs are given, still have a hard time accepting the concept of imamat and believing in imams. We don't believe in the imams without any particular reason. No, there are reasons that are given. Hisham provides those reasons. Hisham did not come by saying that Musa al-Kadhim is the imam of the ummah. He's the imam of the time. He did not mention the name. He started from a very basic concept, and that is the concept of the adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, do you all believe that Allah is just? They said, yes, of course, Allah is just. Allah is adil. He said, if Allah is adil, you think Allah will force someone who's paralyzed, cannot walk, that they must come to masjid and they must go to jihad? Will Allah force someone who's blind that they must read the Quran and must read other mutun and the texts of deen? He said, no, Allah will not do something like this. He said, I know Allah won't do something like this. But hypothetically speaking, you think Allah will allow, if Allah allows something like this, or if Allah forced something like this, would you consider Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be unjust? He said, yes, if that was the case, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be, na'udhu billah, unjust. But because of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not force anyone who's blind that they have to read Quran. Anyone who's apahaj or who's paralyzed, that they have to do what? Go to jihad. No, that is not something which is obligatory upon them. He said, having that established, you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent many religions, but He wants us to believe in one true path? He said, yes, Allah wants us to believe in one true path. He said, if someone else followed another path, would that be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, no. The ayat of Quran is clear. وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Whoever follows a religion other than Islam, it will not be accepted. And that person will be amongst the khasireen on the day of judgment. So what did Hisham was able to establish so far? Number one, the adalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that Allah will only accept one faith from you, not multiple faiths. You can't say, I'll have this and I'll have that as well. Today a lot of people, because of the contemporary, things that are happening around us, a lot of people say, why the the rule in Iran, why don't they ease out some of the Islamic rules? Let them, observe no hijab. Let them, do other things which the neighboring country is also allowing, for example. Let them, these people live freely. Give them all of these, quote unquote, freedoms. Let them have these freedoms, right? This is something. I'm not talking about the Western people. I'm talking about our own people are saying this. Roshan Fikran, they're saying the same thing. Why does Iran have to be so stubborn? Why are they forcing these things onto people who don't want to follow that? They got to relax some of these things. Let them, if people don't want to observe hijab, let it be. If they don't want to, for example, do something, let it be. Why are you forcing these things onto people? When you establish the hukumat based on qawaneen and the rules set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you cannot start making changes onto it to appease people. You cannot go ahead and start relaxing things. Either you don't have the hukumat, or if you do, then you got to make sure that everything is part of that to the extent that you're able to enforce it onto the people. You can't say, well, religions can survive in secular societies. You look at all the secular societies in the world. They give you freedom of religion right here. You're allowed to, practice whatever religion you want to. But why a religious government is so stubborn, does not allow anything else? Let that be a question that people ask, and how we cannot deviate from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained. Look at it in your own lives, your routine from morning till night. Why do you not allow certain things in your own behavior? And why do you adhere to certain things during your 24 hours? Because you have that fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you have made the commitment that you'll follow this deen and this religion to best of your ability. Now, of course, it's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll be held accountable about your own deeds. But when you're governing a group of people, then you cannot just go ahead and start giving relaxations in this area or that area just so that I'm able to please the entire society. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So he was able to establish what? Adalat. And he was able to establish that there's only one deen. And that is the deen that he sent through our Prophet. Right? They all agreed to that. He said then, the necessity of Imam comes from this moment on. Again, he's not mentioning the name of Imam. He's not mentioning who is the Imam that I'm referring to. He said, Rasulullah brought this deen, which we all agree with. There could only be three possibilities after Rasulullah leaves this world. Number one, all of the wajibat are null and void after the wafat of Rasulullah. All of the muharramat are null and void after the wafat of Rasulullah. Meaning, there's no religious obligation that remains after the wafat of Rasulullah. Do we agree with that? Of course, people that were there, they rejected it. He said, well, then the second option is that everyone after the wafat of Rasulullah was at the same level as Rasulullah as far as the ilm is concerned, so they can go ahead and follow the religion and the different tenets of the religion. All in the gathering, they also rejected that. So no, that's not the case. Not everybody is at the same level as Rasulullah. Nobody's at the level of Rasulullah. Forget about everybody else. He said, if deen did not go extinct, if the amal and the ahkam and the wajibat and muharramat are still intact, and if not everybody is at the level of Rasulullah as far as the ilm is concerned, then there's a necessity of a being, an individual who has the similar knowledge to Rasulullah after Rasulullah leaves this world. Again, Hisham did not mention the name, who that person is. Nor did he impose his will onto this person. He says, let's go step by step. Adalat of Allah. One deen and not two adyan. Number three, after Rasulullah, these three options that we have, first two options are rejected. The third option is then there. It's okay. We are with you up until this point. How do we go ahead and appoint this individual? He said the same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed Nabi Imam is appointed in the same way. He said, well, then what's the difference between Nabi and Imam? He said, the difference is Nabi is appointed on the heavens, Imam is appointed on the earth. Nabi is appointed by the angels, bring the Risalat to the Anbiya, while the Nabi gives the Imamat or announces the Imamat of the Imam on this land. He said right away, he was bringing the gap closer and narrowing it down so that there could be one Shahid Mithal and the example and the mistaq of it. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. He said, okay, now what? How do we identify this person? He said, this person has to be someone who's known, who's from the same tribe, which is his ethnicity should be the best, his tribe should be the best, and his appointed by Rasulullah, and he's the most knowledgeable of all. He said, where do we find that person? Where do we find such an individual? He said, Rasulullah is Arab, so that person has to be Arab. Rasulullah is from Quraysh, the tribe of Quraysh, so that person also has to be from the tribe of Quraysh. And this person should be the most knowledgeable. We don't find anyone else other than one individual in the life, our history of life, who said, Saluni, Saluni, qabla an tafqiduni. Ask me before I'm no longer amongst you. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And then said this person should have these 4 ancestral qualities. And then he should have these 4 qualities as well. Imam must be the most knowledgeable. Why? So he can prevent the distortion from happening. Otherwise, if a person is not most knowledgeable, right away they'll be influenced by other individuals who come across and bring something new to them. So Imam should be someone who's most knowledgeable, and his knowledge should be able to convince others and not the other way around. Number 2, Imam should be infallible and sinless. Why? Because if he commits a sin as well, then how is he going to go ahead and punish anyone else who's committing the same sin? Remember the story that when people had said to Hadhrat Isa ﷺ that we should go ahead and stone this individual because they have committed an adultery. Hadhrat Isa said, tomorrow we'll go ahead and do this thing. Anyone who hasn't done this amal themselves should come and stone this person. Only one person showed up, and that was Hadhrat Yahya ﷺ. Everybody else stayed back because they had also committed that same crime. How are you going to go ahead and punish someone of the crime that you yourself have committed? So this person has to be what? This Imam of the Ummah also has to be the one who is sinless and infallible. Number 3, he should be the bravest of all. As far as the bravery is concerned, he should not be someone who runs away, as the ayat of Quran talks about it as well, that those who run away, there's no wilayat upon them from you, O Rasulullah. Those who did not migrate with you, you don't have any wilayat on them, meaning they don't even get your inheritance. And those who run away from the battles as well, they're condemned. Afa in mata aw qutlu in qalabtum ala aqabikum. The ayat of Quran is very clear. When people ran away in the battle of Uhud, the ayat came down and said, what? If Rasulullah was to die, would you go ahead and backtrack and run away? These people were scolded. He said there has to be someone who's the bravest of all, who does not flee. We only know that there's an individual for whom Rasulullah said, Karrar ghayr farrar, that he's karrar, he's fearless, and he never flees the sin. And lastly, he should be the most generous. Now, this is an interesting thing that Hisham brought over here about the sifat of Imam. Not most generous that he should be the wealthiest to go ahead and donate. No, most generous refers to that this person, and you can see the shabi of that. Of course, bila mushabba. I'm not comparing ghayr masum with masum, but I'm just drawing your attentions closer to our maraji. The one who has access to Baitul Mal and his hawa and havas does not mislead him to misuse that Baitul Mal. You know, these maraji of ours, they are sitting on millions of dollars. But you go ahead and look at their lifestyle. This is where this hilm And this fear and this taqwa comes because you're following the path of the Imam. So Hisham quoted 4 qualities, ancestral, and 4 qualities as far as the traits of Imam is concerned. Right away at this point, from the system of elimination or the process of elimination, he was able to remove all the processes that exist. Collective leadership, shura, is no longer in play. Ruler who commits error is no longer at play. Ruler who lacks knowledge should no longer be accepted. Ruler who commits injustice, all of them are removed. Only one individual at that time who's worthy of that, that is Imam al-Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wassalam. That was the reason that Hisham was also put under some strain by Harun, and eventually Hisham died as well. Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, of course, as you mentioned, there's so much from Imam. We should have a series of majalis, inshallah. I'll try to cover some stuff tomorrow in the khutbah of Jummah as well. This dua, known as Dua Joshan as-Saghir, is a gift that we have received from our 7th Imam. The 14 years that Imam spent in the prison was not something that Imam was always worried, and Imam was in a state of depression and stress, which should give you depression and stress that you are in this dungeon. But Imam instead made it into something positive. I've said this before. Imam said, Ilahi inni kuntu as'aluka an tafarragani li ibadatik. Oh Allah, I had asked you to give me faraghat so that I can go ahead and worship you. Allahumma waqad fa'alta falakal hamd. By giving me this time in prison where I can't do anything else from the outside work, falakal hamd. Oh Allah, have mercy on me. Oh Allah, hamd and praise unto you that you provided me the opportunity that I can go ahead and perform your ibadat the way you deserve to be obeyed. I would not have been able to do that if I was outside, because I had so many other obligations onto me when it came to my children, when it came to my family, although all those things are also considered to be ibadat, but the way you deserve to be worshipped, that is something which you have given me the opportunity while I'm in this prison. Look at someone who can look at not glass half empty, but glass which is half full. That yes, while I'm in this prison, I'm not going to go ahead and go into depression. I'm going to utilize this opportunity for the best of my abilities. So many attempts were made. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, it was not easy for him in these prisons. Imams suffer from one prison to another. He was first admitted into the prison in Basra, prison of Isa ibn Ja'far. Then from there, Imam was given or thrown into the prison in Baghdad of Fazl ibn Rabi. Then Imam was given or taken to the prison of Fazl ibn Yahya. This is where Imam would spend the days and nights doing the ibadat. In fact, Fazl ibn Yahya was so impressed by Imam that he allowed Imam to come to his house to go ahead and do ibadat, because the dungeon that Imam was in, you were not able to stand straight into that dungeon. That's how dark it was. Imam ﷺ, in that he says this famous dua, which is recommended to be recited either in sajda or after you have recited the adhan and the iqamat. Ilahi adhumat dambu min abdik. Ilahi, my sins have increased a great deal. Falyahsanil afu min indak. But of course, the afu and darguzar and forgiveness is better from you. Ilahi, Allahumma inni as'aluka rahata indal maut. Oh Allah, I seek rahat and comfort when the maut comes upon me. Wala afu indal hisab. And I ask for forgiveness when hisabu kitab comes about me. Imam, of course, as I said, it was not easy. In fact, there were some other lewd activities by Harun al-Rashid. Now, I can't believe that people still praise such individuals. Well, you can believe, because people praise Yazid even till this day. Then they can praise Harun al-Rashid as well. One of the lowest things that he committed, he sent a lady who was known to be not a good person at that time, known for her bad behavior and character in the community at that time. She was sent to the prison of Imam. The person who brought that lady, Imam, turned him down and said, take her away. I'm not in need of anything. Harun al-Rashid, when he heard, he said, tell him that we did not send you into the prison on your own accord, nor are we going to listen to what you want or what you don't want. He said, take this lady back into that prison and leave her there. The lady was brought. And then she came to Imam in order to seduce Imam to speak and say a few words. Right away, Imam ﷺ said to her that you want to see what is awaiting me? You want to see what is my maqam and what my place is? And then Imam showed her the scene between her two fingers. She was able to see a scene from Jannat and paradise. She was able to see all the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are awaiting Imam in Jannat. And then she looked at herself that I am nothing in compared to what Imam already has. That was the moment it was mentioned that this lady also brought Iman onto Imam. You know, sometimes your kirdar and your character is enough. Kunu du'atan lil nas bighayri alsinatikum. Guide people to humanity without having used your tongues. Imam did not use his tongue. Imam ﷺ was able to guide people, change their entire lifestyle, turn it around upside down just by their character. This lady was then brought back to Harun. He said, what is wrong with you? The reason you were sent in there? She said, I'm a mu'mina of Musa ibn Ja'far. I have brought Iman onto him. And of course, what he did with her did. Imam ﷺ moved from one prison to another until he reached the prison of Sindi ibn Shahiq. This was a man who had inad from Ahlul Bayt a great deal, held grudge a great deal of Ahlul Bayt. And this was the perfect place from the perspective of Harun al-Rashid that Imam should be in. This was a dungeon that he was looking for, someone who would make it even more like a hell for Imam ﷺ. And he did not stop. He did whatever he could to annoy Imam, to harm Imam, to torment Imam, until Harun al-Rashid sent some dates which were poisoned. And he brought these dates to Imam. Imam first said, no, I don't have any inclination to eat them. He forced Imam. Imam then ate 7 of them. He said, take more. Imam then responded by saying, oh man, whatever it is that you wanted to achieve, you have achieved with those 7 dates that I have consumed. I don't need to eat any more of these dates. Know that what you wanted to achieve. Imam started to break. His body started to break. Sindi ibn Shahiq brought these people as witness to come and see, look, Imam, we are not doing anything to him. We're not harming him. He is not dying because we have done something to him. Imam then told these people, no, I have been poisoned. Tomorrow you will see that my face complexion will change. I will turn pale tomorrow. And then the day after, I will no longer be in this world. Imam predicted that. And then what happens? One of the mazlumiyat of this Imam is that Harun al-Rashid, to remove that he had nothing to do with the Shahadat of Imam, Imam ke lashe ko jasad Baghdad pe le ja ke rakh diya jata hai. अरे बगदाद के पुल के ऊपर हर गुजर जाने वाले के नज़दीक इमाम का जनाजा पड़ा है, लेकिन कोई हाथ नहीं लगाता है। यहाँ तक के हारून ही के रिश्तेदारों में से एक शख्स आता है और आगे कहता है, हादा जसदो मूसल काजिम, ये इमाम मूसा काजिम का जसद मुबारक है। 3 दिन तक पड़ा रहा। बाज़ रिवायतों में मैं कहूँगा, मौला 3 दिन तक जसद बगदाद पे, लेकिन फिर आपका जनाजा उठा, आपकी तजहीज़ व तकफीन हुई, आपको दफन किया गया जहां आप चाहते थे, बगदाद में, वो महल्ला जो कुरैश का महल्ला है। और आज भी आपका मकाम वो जगह है जहां लोग जियारत पे आते हैं। लेकिन हाय हुसैन, 3 दिन तक लाशा बेगोरो कफन मैदान करबला में पड़ा रहा।
मुँह موسیٰ کاظم پہ گریا کرتی ہے زنجیر بھی، موسیٰ کاظم پہ گریا کرتی ہے زنجیر بھی، نوح کرنے آ گئی ہیں، نوح کرنے آ گئی ہیں، زینب دلگیر بھی، موسیٰ کاظم پہ گریا کرتی ہے زنجیر بھی، موسیٰ کاظم پہ گریا کرتی ہے زنجیر بھی، نوح کرنے آ گئی ہیں، نوح کرنے آ گئی ہیں، زینب دلگیر بھی، موسیٰ کاظم کرتی ہے موسیٰ کاظم پہ گریا کرتی ہے، قید خانوں نے پڑھا کاظم کا نوحہ برملا، قید خانوں نے پڑھا کاظم کا نوحہ برملا، آسماں بھی خون رویا رویا کر کربلا، گریہ خونی ہوا اور ظلم کی تشہیر بھی، موسیٰ کاظم پہ گریا کرتی ہے، موسیٰ گریہ و ماتم کی کانوں میں صدا آتی رہی، ایک ماں رو رو کے یہ زندان میں کہتی رہی، بے خطا ہے بے گناہ ہے اور بے تقصیر بھی، موسیٰ کرتی ہے، موسیٰ کاظم منتظر بابا کی تھیں 14 برس سے بیٹیاں، غم زدہ رہتی تھیں ہر دم جھیلتی تھیں سختیاں، اشک باری ساتھ ان کے کرتی ہے تقدیر بھی، موسیٰ کرتی ہے موسیٰ کا مولا کاظم پر ہوئے اتنے ستم جور و جفا، کوئی وارث ہی نہیں ہے پل پہ یہ لاشا پڑا، آسماں بھی رو رہا ہے خلد کی جاگیر بھی، موسیٰ موسیٰ کاظم پل پہ کاظم کے جنازے پر جو ہے گریا کنا، مادر حسنین ہیں بیٹے پہ ہے نوحہ کنا، وارث کونو مکان ہے مالک تطہیر بھی، موسیٰ موسیٰ کرتی ہے آج زنجیروں میں جکڑا ایک جنازہ ہے اٹھا، آج زنجیروں میں جکڑا ایک جنازہ ہے اٹھا، دیکھ کر غربت کا عالم دل شکستہ ہو گیا، لکھ کے روتا ہے قلم رضوان کا تحریر بھی، موسیٰ پہ گریا کرتی ہے زنجیر بھی، موسیٰ کاظم نوحہ کرنے آ گئی ہیں، نوحہ کرنے آ گئی ہیں زینب دلگیر بھی، موسیٰ کاظم پہ گریا کرتی ہے زنجیر بھی، حسین 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 حسین۔
السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا رسول الله، وعلى ابن عمك أمير المؤمنين، وعلى ابنتك فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، وعلى ولديك الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة، وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى، السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من ملهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرزي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداه، السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الزكي الناصح، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله، بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله ولأمير المؤمنين والحسن والحسين صلى الله عليهم وسلم. السلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته ومغفرته ورزوانه وعلى روحك وبدنك. أشهد وأشهد الله أنك مضيت على ما مضى به البدريون والمجاهدون في سبيل الله المناصحون له في جهاد أعدائه المبالغون في نصرة أوليائه الذابون عن أحبائه، فجزاك الله أفضل الجزاء وأكثر الجزاء وأوفر الجزاء وأوفى جزاء أحد ممن أوفى بيعته واستجاب له دعوته وطاع ولاة أمره. أشهد أنك قد بالغت في نصيحة وأعطيت وغاية المجهود، فبعثك الله في الشهداء وجعل روحك مع أرواح السعداء وأرواعتك من جنانه، أفسحا منزلا وأفضلها غرفا ورفع ذكر في إليين، وحشرك مع النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. أشهد أنك لم تهن ولم تنكل وأنت مضيت على بصيرة من أمرك مقتديا بالصالحين ومتبعا للنبيين، فجمع الله بيننا وبينك وبين رسوله وأوليائه في منازل المخبتين، فإنه أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس ونيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض التوس، السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى رضا ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا صاحب الأسر والزمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا إمام زماننا عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك. السلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Mu'minin, inshallah, tomorrow we'll have the program of Bi'isat. It will start at 7 p.m. We will have the Amal and a brief session of the day of Bi'asat and the Shab of Bi'asat, and then the Mi'raj as well. And inshallah on Saturday at 7 p.m. we will have the Majlis for the Rawangi and the departure of Imam Hussein from Medina, inshallah. That will be the night of the 28th of Rajab. So the important fast will be that Saturday will be the fast of the day of Bi'asat,